Zelenskyy tells global finance leaders in Washington that his country needs $14.1 billion immediately for critical reconstruction projects, pleading with officials to use frozen Russian assets to help pay the cost.
Here's a summary of the article.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy told a gathering of global finance leaders in Washington that his country needed $14.1 billion immediately for critical reconstruction needs and pleaded with officials to use frozen Russian assets to help pay the cost. The Kremlin launched full-scale invasion of Ukraine more than a year ago, killing thousands and driving more than a third of a pre-war population of 40 million from their homes. Russian troops destroyed some Ukrainian towns, while missile attacks have seriously damaged infrastructure, including energy facilities. The Ukrainian economy shrank more than 30% last year, and the World Bank estimated Kyiv will need at least $411 billion for its recovery and reconstruction. Finance Minister Marchenko said Ukraine has $3.3 billion in its budget to finance urgent recovery needs this year, while the rest should come from abroad. On the top of reconstruction needs, Ukraine was seeking at $38 billion in external financial aid to help cover its budget gap. The US will provide Ukraine with almost $10 billion this year, while the EU will give €18 billion. The IMF board signed off on a $15.6 billion four-year aid package for Kyiv last month, changing the fund's rules for the first time in its history to allow lending to a country at war.
This post received a score of 6,800, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Freezing assets is one thing, seizing them is another.
Why wouldn't it be a great idea? Common, consensual action taken against an instigator of war. How is this not a good expression of a general resistance to aggression and conquest?
It presents some issues. Firstly, you need to find a legal provision to justify it. I don't even know if such a provision exists in regards to foreign states. It is way easier to seize assets of a private individual. Sovereign nations, not so much. Secondly, if the US start to seize private assets, it will scare investors and rich people.
I think your second point is the most important bit. It sets a precedent wherein governments can seize assets of private citizens who find themselves involved with bad actors. The issue isn't so much with the action, but what qualifies a bad actor. To many, China would be a bad actor, to yet others, and even some already alluded to, the US would be a bad actor.
Yeah. Imagine if China goes to war with Taiwan, God forbid. It means that Chinese assets will also be seized, if Russian ones are seized beforehand. Now, think of all the money that Saudi Arabia, the UAE and other problematic countries have in the US. They will panic and may easily pull out all of their cash, assets. Poof. You now have an economic crisis on your hands. Good luck trying to solve it with public investment, spending. Few people are now willing to lend the US any money.
Did you hear that the X family aired anti-war propaganda? Clearly they don't want us to win in the war against China and Russia. Did you hear that politician X is pro-Russia and received campaign money from a Russian oligarch's daughter? He clearly compromised. Did you hear that they are protesting against the war? They're clearly traitors. We're still humans and we're no better than the Germans, Russians, Chinese, French, or any other group of people who have committed horrible crimes against their own people.
It would be better to hold onto that card for the peace talks.
If you're thinking, yeah, but who cares about those countries, people? You're forgetting that the US has shown it is extremely unpredictable in changing who is an enemy and neutral to them. And for even pro-US countries and people, this is a risk they aren't going to take. A risk of asset seizure that does not exist in other countries would mean investing or keeping assets in the US would become unpalatable for everyone bar the US' closest allies. The only reason it's still going is huge volumes of support in the sum of tens of billions in economic aid by Western nations, tens of billions in loans backed by Western nations, and a mass amount of other non-economic measures to prop up the country's economy and aid from Western nations, which is extremely expensive. Essentially, running a country is extremely expensive. Paying for someone else to run their country is expensive too.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes. And any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.